So there's this really neat program called Lossless Scaling. So I've got Minecraft here as an example to show you the difference. So at the moment, if we check my statistics, I'm running the game at like almost 60 FPS. My laptop should be doing way better than this. Like it should be at 1440p 120. Although saying that, we do have the shaders on. Running like well enough, I guess. It's not great, but it does the job. But we can change that. Now, obviously on YouTube, I can't show you the difference, but I can upscale from 60 FPS to 120 FPS, which is great. I'm going to have to show you from 30 to 60. So what I need to do first is I need to set the game to 30 FPS. So we'll do that from here. I can set it down to 10. Okay, I don't quite need 10. So we'll set it down to 30. Whoa, yeah. Oof. As you can, that feels like 30 FPS. It does not feel particularly nice. This is like Switch. This is Switch FPS. How do we make this feel better? Well, we just turn it on, and that does it like... Oh, you can't see it, can you?
1 hour later.
Okay, so I had to record the desktop instead this time. So, as you can see, you can use the program here. So you can click this scale button here, or you can use a hotkey like I do. So I've set it to Alt S, for example, but you can set it to whatever you want. You can just change that in the settings. So at the moment, they actually just recently introduced a new mode. So you can do X3 mode, which means you can do triple frame generation, which is actually crazy. You can do, actually, with X3 is you can set a game at 40 FPS and then upscale that to 120, which is just mental. This is perfect for something like a Steam Deck, although unfortunately it doesn't work under Linux, so that would have to be like Windows mode Steam Deck, or like an ROG Ally, Legion Go, blah blah blah. Asus is cringe though, but even still, like a lot of games will run at like, you know, 1080p 40 or even 720p 40, and then you can upscale it to 120 FPS, which is absolutely crazy. But for now, again, as I said, we'll set it to X2, and this is a different type. So 2.1 is obviously better than 1.1, but I think 1.1 takes slightly less GPU performance. So really at that point it's just up to you what you want to do. And the scaling type here, so this is the technology it uses. So obviously the most popular one is FSR, but there are other ones you can use. You can use Nvidia's one, which is worse in my opinion. Like I think sometimes it looks sharper, so if you have a game that has a lot of anti-aliasing applied, or maybe like Teardown for example, it looks quite well with Teardown. If you have like really heavy anti-aliasing, that can help quite a bit. Obviously you just have the basic ones like Nearest Neighbor, so that one's best for like pixel art games, so like NES, SNES games, or just retro games. You have Anime 4K, which you probably won't need much, but that would be great for like, I don't know, visual novels or 2D like hand-drawn games, that kind of stuff. And then the rest of it you don't really have to worry about. Usually the best is either FSR or LS1. LS1 is usually slightly better than FSR. It's like their own scaling technology, but you can go FSR and it's usually pretty good as well. So we'll just leave it LS1 for now. Obviously you can change the sharpness. There's this performance toggle, but I genuinely don't know why you turn it off, because it just works way better with it on than off. And then you also have scaling mode, so you can choose your own aspect ratio, you can choose how it works, and there's quite a bit of customizability, and obviously there's a few options here, but for most people you don't really have to worry about changing any of this. All you have to worry about is changing this if you want a different one for a certain type of game, and you just got these options here. You may just have scaling, just the standard scaling. You can turn frame generation off entirely. This helps if you just want to, you know, use FSR or whatever to make your game look nicer without as much GPU usage. Although of course it won't look as good as native, but let's say you want to run it at 720p to save performance, you can use this upscale to 1080p and it will look at least better than native 720p. Or you can do what we're going to do, and you can actually use it for frame generation, which I think is a lot more handy, especially for handheld PCs that can't get to 60 a lot of the time, let alone 120. So enough waffle, let's get on with it. So LS1, NSFG 2.1 and X2. For now, I'll just click the scale button here because you can see it, and then it gives you a bit of time to click your application. So we're going to click back to Minecraft, and even though you'll see it still says 30 FPS there, right? If you go back to game, look at this. That is definitely not 30 FPS. So I was just checking the footage, you know, as you do, to make sure it's watchable, and I have just noticed you can't tell the difference when I'm recording, so I'm gonna have to do it the 1958 way of recording things. So I'll just like replay this as like background footage to this clip, and yeah, it's being dumb, sorry. Now, this is not the ideal situation. Again, as the developer says, ideally, you'd use 60 FPS and then upscale to 120. But here, it still works. Like, you can tell there's a bit of issue. So, for example, around where the HUD is, like around the bottom of the screen, or around like the sides of the screen, but mainly around the bottom, you can see a little bit of warping. And especially if you have like some random like Windows prompt, you know, the bottom corner, that can really make it look weird. It works surprisingly well. Like this feels like 60 FPS. And if there is any input lag, I can't tell tell the difference. You do have to make sure the game can do either windowed mode and borderless windowed though. So I've got a mod here from Minecraft that does borderless windowed mode. Otherwise, it doesn't work properly on like full screen exclusive games, so keep that in mind. And then 3 times. So you know what? Why don't we try 3 times? I'm feeling a bit daring today. Now we're going to go insane mode, and we are going to drop it down to 20 FPS. So now we're getting to Xbone performance, or like original Xbox One performance. Yep, there we go. This is about how I remember playing Ark Survival Evolved on the Xbox One. So I mean, this is just about playable. Like, I can play the video game at 20 FPS. I don't think I could do anything near like fighting the Ender Dragon. If you have an absolute potato PC, it is at least doable. However, we can do better. And one of the coolest things about Lossless Scaling is it works on any computer. As long as it can run Windows and like it's relatively modern. You don't need a certain like graphics card or certain CPU or anything like that. So that is really epic. There you go, we've now brought up Lossless Scaling, and we're going to set it to ×3. I haven't actually tried this yet with 20 FPS. I don't know if it picks up that up on camera, but look at this. Yeah, as you can see, now it is really starting to suffer. Like, there is a lot more, like, warping and stuff going on. But you are definitely not supposed to run this at 20 FPS, I can tell you that much. But apart from all the warping, it is running the game at 60 FPS, which is crazy. Like, you can feel it. It almost feels like a dream sequence in, like, a movie or something. And, like, the input lag, which is certainly not great by any stretch of the imagination, it's not even that bad. If there is any difference in input lag that isn't just the fact that it's 20 FPS, I can't tell. I'd say this is surprisingly playable. See myself actually playing the game like this if I had to. Fortunately, I don't, but I'm sure there's a lot of you with potato PCs that could really do with something like this. I think this might even work on like Intel iGPUs and that kind of stuff. So I'd really recommend giving this program a go. It does cost, it's like £3, like $4, something like that. So it's not a free program, unfortunately, but considering what it offers, personally, I think that's worth it. That's what I paid for it. And you can even get it on sale for like £2. So at that point, like, why not? You know what I mean? It's the same as like, you know, donating to a open source project or something. Let's change this now because this is getting really annoying. Right, there we are. We are back to 60 FPS. I mean, it works at 20 FPS. That is mental. I don't even know how that happens. You don't need a 4070 like graphics card. You don't need a 4090 to do like upscaling. You just buy this program, and like, it will obviously take up GPU power. So I was going to talk about that, but honestly, I don't know how much of a difference it makes. It may take up to 40% of your GPU power, so keep that in mind. So this isn't like you put it on and you just get free FPS. It's more like you put this on, you can reach a lot higher FPS than you would otherwise. Considering how at the moment my computer's struggling to run Minecraft at 1440p 60, I can turn it on and I can get a pretty stable 1440p 120 FPS, which you would not be able to do otherwise. So for me, that is essentially a free 30 FPS. Now, yeah, obviously it's not exactly the same. It does feel like it's generating frames, but it feels close enough, while the input lag feels the same. Like, the input lag doesn't feel any different. For me personally, there's literally no reason why I wouldn't enable it for most games, apart from if I just didn't feel like it. Give this program a go. I'm not sponsored. I just really like the program and I think it's worth talking about. So